Good. Wonderful. And with that, we should be recording. Welcome back to our weekly PyScript community notes, community call. Good to see everybody here. A lot of familiar faces. Is there anyone who would like to introduce themselves who we haven't seen before on this call? I see a Sarah waving her hand. Sarah, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Sarah Dukevich. I go by Saduki in the tech community. I happen to see the PyScript dev mention the call on Twitter today, and I was like, "Ooh, let's check this out." Like Jeff, and there's at least one other person. The three of us are doing PyScript talks for PyOhio. So that's coming up on December 16th. So I'm super excited. I've been playing with PyScript since alpha, and when I updated my talk recently, I'm like, holy cow, it is getting so much better, so much more fun to use. I'm loving like the separation of files and not the inline, let's put it all at the HTML. It's so nice. So I'm here to see what the community is about on the PyScript side.
That's awesome. Oh, we're so glad you're here, Sarah. This is so good. Yeah, these meetings tend to be kind of a funny combination of what's cool, what's new, and then also sort of like for the internal dev team, like decision making and what do we want to do and what do we think about this API or this PR or so sort of thing. So it does sometimes, we were told, get a little bit in the weeds. So we'll try and keep it a little more accessible and try and push things that are in the weeds. We do an okay job of pushing them back to GitHub, but forgive us if we get a little sidetracked today. And also, as someone new here, please let us know what does and doesn't make sense to you, because that's a perspective that certainly we have run out of. So that would be swell. Awesome. Anyone else want to introduce themselves who hasn't been here recently?
Well, I guess since I'm Paris Ostovari, I've been working with Python for the past couple of years as hobby. I mean, I'm retired, and I developed an applications that in Python, kind of an M3U player, but then I find that I cannot run on anything almost other than Mac and Unix and so on. Then I noticed that you have the PyScript, and I started to use it, and I was able to, I can say I was able to run it on my Android, on the iPhone, everything. Although it still is not, is a long way to go, since especially, by the way, I just used the PyScript next, and some it looks like it's different. It looks like it's different, and I tell you the truth, the main issue that I have, I guess, is that the documentation is everywhere and nowhere. And you cannot go from one place and to go everywhere. You know, to go where you want to go. Sometimes the links are broken. Sometimes, for example, the examples are the old PyScript, classic. But that's the kind of the issue I have. I mean, I don't mind to report it to you. You know, if you need to.
No, that's actually.
Yeah, yeah, please, we love it.
Yes. Oh, okay, yeah. All right. So, where can I report it to on the Discord, generally speaking?
Discord is good, or there is, if it's specifically the docs, if you go to GitHub, there's a separate docs repo now.
Yeah.
If you're like, hey, this line is wrong, this link is long, you can just file an issue report and say, this is broken. I know I've seen Nicholas jump on those with incredible speed, so I'm sure we'll.
All right. Yeah, and just bear in mind, we're also in a transition period from the old universe of PyScript Classic to the new universe of PyScript New, Next, whatever we've called it these days. And you know, we're taking bits of the old stuff away whilst not trying to let the bridge collapse, if you see what I mean. So it's all being slotted in and out, and we'll get it wrong, and we know that. So this is why we really appreciate it when people turn up and say that doesn't work, because we're only human. We'll miss these things. So we really appreciate this sort of stuff.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think with that, just going through the little agenda items on our docs, I guess no announcements currently on the agenda. Any brief announcements before we move on to the agenda that we haven't said yet? Going once, going twice?
Well, maybe the unofficial announcement is that we want to really announce a new release this week, which is one of the topics.
Yeah, that's a perfect, good segue, Fabio. So I think Nicholas has our first proper agenda item about release this week. Do you want to take it away, Nicholas?
Yes. So Merry Christmas, everybody. We need to have something by the tree. So why not have a December release of PyScript? I just want to go around the room to make sure that folks are happy with what we might or might not be releasing. And then I can press buttons or pull levers, or somebody else can do that. Because if you watch the video of me, literally all I did is type 2023.11.2 into GitHub and pressed a button, and then the release was automated. So it's not hard to release PyScript. So if anybody wants to have a go at doing it, I'm happy to drop on a Zoom call and we can do it together. Or you could just do it yourself, because it is really dead easy to do. I just want to make sure, Jeff, are you happy? Because always you do those amazing blog posts. Are you happy for that? Okay, cool. I just want to highlight the two things that I think will be basically the change log. The first one will be the JS modules work that Andrea delivered, so that you can now reference JavaScript modules from within the PyScript namespace, and so on and so forth, even on workers. I'm starting to sound like, I don't know, a detergent salesman now. But anyway, whiter than white PyScript is what you're going to get. And the other one is the PyEditor, which kind of is a little bit like what PyREPL used to be like. But essentially, you have Python blocks of code, you evaluate them, and they run within a particular context. So you can, it feels a little bit like notebooks on the web page as well. I know Andrea delivered something, and I think there was discussion about, should we merge it and then just see what happens, or are we yet to refine it? And I think from my reading, the discussion is more erring on the, well, let's merge it, let's release it, let's see what people think, and we can refine. I'm seeing thumbs up and nods and stuff like that. Andrea and Sarah's nodding and what have you. Madhu looks asleep. No, he's awake. And so on. And so let's do that then. Let's release tomorrow. I'll do that tomorrow.
Yeah, that's either tomorrow or Thursday, because there are a couple of things.
Okay, let's do Thursday then, because I can see there's a couple of things, so we can, yeah, let's do that then. Yeah.
One is, well, we also should update the docs and put like a big large box disclaimer: PyEditor is alpha or something like this. It's going to change. Maybe even a warning on the console or something. I don't know. We can discuss whatever. I know you were gonna say nobody looks at the console. I know. But the other thing also, I'm hoping to get camera support on PyDOM and a bunch of fixes today, latest tomorrow morning. I have a branch open, and then I have another one that I'm working on. So I'd like to add those before the release.
Okay. I've put in the notes, release on Thursday.
Awesome. Nicholas,
updating the docs as well tomorrow to make sure that we've got, it references the right things. It references the new examples. Madhu, brilliant work on those, matey, as well. So, as each release happens, we're getting a little bit more refined as well.
Yes. Nicholas, real quick, did you want to, you mentioned yesterday you wanted maybe to add a audio support or something like this? Is it too tight, or
that can be the 2nd December release? And what I'll do is I will show you what I've created for Chris, and we can export that out and put it in the PyDOM PyWeb. We'll find its place in the namespace, so that other people can do it. But I mean, it works if you're using Chrome and Pyodide. Try using it on Firefox, it still doesn't work. And MicroPython, oh my gosh. I mean, I'm getting there, though. That's the important thing. And I did promise Andrea that I would make his day and share it with him so he can laugh at my JavaScript, because that's actually, without wishing to go into the weeds, for 20 seconds, Jeff, do you mind if I just explain the approach?
We're good on time, yeah.
Essentially, I tried to use the FFI and do it all in Python, and it didn't work for whatever complicated reasons. So I decided I would do all the web API-based stuff in JavaScript, and then wrap those functions in Python classes or functions or whatever. But then, of course, MicroPython isn't working quite the same way as Pyodide. So, oh, dear me. It's that sort of a thing. So that's kind of what I'm tidying up at the moment. But I'm confident that we'll have something.
This is actually brings me to a little bit of a side point, because I think we have a little time, because I think we've answered our second agenda question, which is PyEditor, should we merge? Does anyone have a reason we should not merge PyEditor for this release this week? Anybody? Anybody? Great. We'll get it merged. The thing I wanted to ask Nicholas, because it comes up on our calls, and especially on our Thursday calls when we do our fun demos sometimes with MicroPython. Oh, sorry, Andrea, I see your hand. Give me 1 sec. Of things that are different in MicroPython and Pyodide. And I know we've got a growing list for Damien and things. Where does that knowledge live? Mostly in my mind, it lives with you, but do we have a formal place for it to live?
Okay, so on the MicroPython web, this is Jeff, this is an awesome question. B, as Antonio, lovely Antonio would point out, MicroPython isn't Python, and what have you. On the MicroPython website, if you Google it, differences between CPython and MicroPython, there is a web page where in graphic technical detail, it's explained what the differences are. Then we start to get into the weeds. So Damien has re-implemented the FFI that we have in Pyodide, but it's still different to the
What made me
implementation details that are slightly different because they're different interpreters behind the scenes as well. We have that list. I mean, Andrea discovered that any number in JavaScript is turned into an integer in MicroPython's FFI, you know, that sort of thing, which we understood when we were doing that work to bring in another interpreter. It would start rough and ready, and we need to refine. And so we are front and center in that refinement process. We've delivered a kind of a proof of concept. Everybody's gone, ha, MicroPython, it's awesome, it's fast, it does all of those things, except that doesn't work, that doesn't work, that doesn't work, that doesn't work, and I don't understand what this thing is over here. Okay, so that's a list that we need to give to Damien. Or in fact, at the top of the list I want to give to Damien is, can we have MicroPython not on your branch, but actually in the main, so we can contribute. For instance, I don't know if you realize, but the seed for the random module is constant. So it's always random in the same way. So if you have a website where it's a random dot choice of something and then print it, you're always going to get the same answer. Okay. I could have, well, I put in the MicroPython Discord a possible solution is 2 lines of JavaScript. There's no way for me to contribute that backup stream into the WebAssembly PyScript version of MicroPython. So it'd be nice to give Damien the support and time he needs to be able to do that sort of thing. But this is something I can see the smile on Andrea's face, because pretty much there's not a day goes by without me and Andrea going, oh, that's another thing for Damien. There we go.
If anyone in the world discovers a thing like that, or they think is a thing like that about maybe a difference in the micro PyScript FFI, where should they ask or report that to make sure it filters up into that list? Or are we too early for that?
This is exactly what we're trying to build up right now. That's basically why I want to try and get it out of Damien's personal branch into MicroPython. So the answer to that is you tag it WebAssembly PyScript in the official MicroPython repository, but it's not in the official MicroPython repository. It's in Damien's personal fork of MicroPython. I mean, I know he's the main maintainer, but can we give him some time to do that work, sort of thing? It would help everybody. But we are where we are. It's almost Christmas. People are it's that kind of, trying to get to the end of the year and tidy things up sort of situation. But spring cleaning is in the air, definitely.
Well, having derailed us, I apologize, but thank you for the explanation. That was very helpful. Andrea, you've had your hand up for quite a while now. Let's get around to you. Andrea, what is it? This topic, the previous topic? What's going on?
All the topics. So the first one was, as soon as you said PyEditor, should we merge? Yes, but the reason I wrote that line in the agenda was to talk about this, but it looks like we are all aligned, which is cool. I don't think we should show any warning. The PyEditor, as it is, as it's meant to be, it's working, at least for what I could test, and everything else is working fine. The only thing is that it needs a review. So you, Jeff, told me I gotta find time to review it, and that didn't happen. I've seen your merge request to MicroPython repository, which is awesome. I can't wait for that to be in as well, the MIP part. And but yeah, I need somebody to actually approve the PyEditor, and I think it's good for the time being. And as it's being released incrementally, I think it's okay. About the release, so sorry, I start like your point, previous point, and then I go straight to the latest point. The release, there is also the JS.document. So we decided that it's okay to patch it, and we can fine tune in the future if there's any need for any specific packages to drop it out of the box, out of a config file. We're happy to do that. But right now, stuff is just breaking. So like matplotlib is the easiest example. And for anyone else new to the topic, we can run in a worker. In the worker, there is no document. So any library that assumes that you can do import JS.document, do something, breaks. But we have the stack itself allows to reach the main thread UI DOM and hence document and do stuff there. And we decided that it's good to patch that one because everyone is asking why there's no JS document, this module isn't working, and blah, blah, blah. So I think that's also another new thing that should land in the next release. Actually, is already in, so it should definitely land. And last but not least, before I forget, oh yeah, the MicroPython repository currently have a port-WebAssembly label. So when you file a ticket, an issue like I did, they can add that label. So the pile of issues that Jeff is mentioning should be easily filtered by that label. The thing is that I haven't seen Damien directly involved in that the mainstream repository, and so because of the different fork and different stuff. So I hope we can, like Nicholas said, we can merge everything into the main repository, and actually we can also somehow hint that the WebAssembly port is the label that is referring the current issue. And at the end of the day, I think the easiest way to go is to find a prefix like square brackets port WebAssembly issue, and then we can filter by ourselves any issue related to WebAssembly. At least we have something to track and something to eventually move forward, merge, refer to, and stuff like that.
Can I just mention on that point, Andrea, there is a naming convention in MicroPython. So you have a port which targets an architecture, which for us would be WebAssembly. And then because, you might have the ARM architecture, but there are lots of different boards. They all have different peripherals. So I'm assuming, I've spoken to Damien about this a few months ago, that there will be a PyScript board within the WebAssembly port, if you see what I mean. So we're following the same tree-like structure so that we'll be able to do that. But
I don't want to interfere with
no. But I'm just saying that there is once it all slots in, it'll all slot in, and everyone can go, oh, that's better. I know.
Yeah, but it feels like whatever they fix in MicroPython for the port-WebAssembly is going to benefit us as well, because we are using exactly the port WebAssembly MicroPython thing. So we can use port-PyScript, but port-PyScript behind the scene is still port-WebAssembly. So I actually don't care as long as we find a way to disambiguate and to pile up issues that are related to our project, either because of WebAssembly or because of specific Damien work for our own purpose. That works for me. So anything is fine as long as it's better than now. Because right now I don't even know where to file issues. I have to explain that there's only a specific port WebAssembly thing that happens only in PyScript and stuff like that. So.
Damien on Discord is not quite the thing. No, we'll help him into the future and get that merged, and then we can upstream it. One thing we know about MicroPython, and they love subcategories and organizations, so I'm sure they'll be thrilled to have a tag as much as we are. I think that'll be quite good.
It's also, can I just say, it's also worth pointing out that Damien is going to be a new dad again in March as well. So time is of the essence. So, come March, poor guy's going to be, covered in nappies, diapers, whatever you want to call them, and milk bottles. And I know Victoria, it's their third child as well. So they're now outnumbered. So.
Oh, amazing. Well, wonderful.
Yeah. That I just wanted to mention, like the core part of here is allowing us to actually contribute upstream. Like honestly, that is really like the essential. The rest is really great, but if I had to pick one, that would be the one.
Yeah. Amazing. Looking a little further down our agenda list, Andrea, I think you also have our next point. The PR you opened yesterday or today about throwing on multiple PyConfigs. Do you want to talk to us a little about what that is?
It's easier probably if I just show my screen, share my screen, and I'll try share my screen. Please tell me you can see my screen.
Yep.
Yep.
We can see it.
And you can see a white page with 4 links and some
Yes, sir.
DevTools opened.
Yep.
Okay, so this is actually something we discussed, not here. Damn it, I lost the link. But something we discussed with Jeff as well a while ago. And today I was going through issues just to be sure that all the next thing that we plan to address a while ago are fixed. Most of those look fixed, but this one, we had a discussion, but we never moved forward. So it's about having multiple config. Let's start with the too many PyConfigs. So if we have, in this case, 2 PyConfig on the page, we cannot, on the main thread, we cannot handle multiple PyConfig simply for the fact that the pyodide or MicroPython, whatever it's running behind the scene, it's one environment, it's one runtime. So with one runtime, we can tell the runtime, hey, these are the packages we want, and blah, blah, blah. But merging multiple config for multiple runtimes feels like, I mean, one day maybe we could do that, the merge multiple config, but right now we're not there yet. And I think one single config will make everyone's life easier to deal with and reason about. And so right now, the idea, the branch, this is actually the branch for the issue. It throws an error. This is the code for conflicting stuff in PyScript and too many PyConfig. So the error can be improved. So there is a merge request. So any hint is welcome. This is just one of the cases. Then we have different cases. So here we have 2 script type Py, no PyConfig at all on the page, and one config is still on the main thread. There's no worker attribute on any of these, and these are pointing to 2 different configs. And this is the same issue of having multiple PyConfig on the page, because the engine is still the same. So it is the same pyodide, and we cannot bootstrap packages at distance, or that's not how it works right now. And probably in this specific case where you can find the specific config within the script, it's even harder to merge or the script that can have a config, because script type I can happen at runtime as well. So it can be after a click event, somebody appends the script type I because they don't want pyodide out of the box. They want pyodide only after some event in some circumstances on the web, because of the bandwidth, the bootstrap time, and everything else. So this is a different error. In this case, it's still a conflicting issue. Unable to use different configs on main. I want to stress on main probably more, because every worker is a different pyodide, is a different runtime. So having different configs with worker attribute, either script type I or PyScript worker, whatever we pick, it's okay, it's fine. It inherits automatically out of the box the main config if there is any PyConfig on the page, but you can specify a different config that overrides instantly whatever was on the page because it's a
Andrea,
worker. So it's his own environment. Yes.
because I'm not sure you can see us, you've got a couple of questions here. I think as you
Can
carry
I
on,
can I go with the last example so you have all the context?
go
And
for it.
then,
Go for it, and then
and
we'll
then
do
I-
Maduro and Fabio after that. Hit us.
Yes. So ambiguous and PyConfig. In this case, we have a PyConfig and a script type Py with a different config. And here we have the same issue. But in this case, the issue is still also different because we have ambiguous PyConfig versus config attribute. There's no worker in here. So in this case, we have what config should we do? Should we use for Pyodide? Which config should bootstrap the Pyodide? And in this case, it's still here we have a PyConfig that dictates on the main thread what should land on Pyodide as a package, as anything else, as interpreter, and we cannot have a different config in here. And so these are the three main or the all use cases I could think about. And at the end of the day, if the multiple script type have the same config, in this case, it's not even a file, it's just the exact same JSON. You see like this because, yeah, it's just the same JSON. And so in this case, there's no issue whatsoever because they all do the same thing. So they all bootstrap Pyodide, first come, first serve on the main thread again. And that's it. Now I can take all the questions that you want.
Excellent. I think
And
Maduro,
stop sharing, maybe.
we saw your hand first there.
Yeah, so I kind of forgot if we exposed the env attribute, but if it is exposed, then can we use that and then also have two different configs on the main thread?
The env attribute in PyScript is the PyScript itself. So we don't have env attribute. I'm sorry you read the PolyScript documentation, but in PyScript we don't mention that not by accident. It's a different thing. So the env attribute right now is exactly for custom types and the PolyScript feature. And the env is used already by PyScript itself. If we want to add an extra env environment and do, okay, we have, but the issue here is the same. So with the same environment, you cannot have different configs because it's the same Pyodide. And in this case, the environment is always the same. It's the PyScript Pyodide environment. When it's PyScript MicroPython environment when it's MPy, and you cannot have multiple environments in there. And if you want multiple environments, you just use workers. I mean, because you need different config. Right now, the escape hatch is to use workers because workers don't block the main thread multiple times per each environment and per each runtime you want. And so you can have 20 workers with 20 different kind of config, and that kind of workarounds the limitation of the environment. But again, this is for, so the issue here is within the same environment, can we allow multiple config? And the answer is no. So you need a different environment, meaning a different Pyodide bootstrap, meaning a different everything. We should, and this is probably on me because I mentioned PolyScript too many times, but we should stop correlating attributes in PyScript with attributes in PolyScript, because PolyScript is just behind the scene an enabler and not really what happens in PyScript. We do slightly different things. Some documentation points at PolyScript for good reasons, but also PolyScript points at PyScript for other documentation, like the config. And the config it has always been one config per page before, now, and probably in the near future too. So I hope this answers. I know it's not the best, the answer you were looking for, but that's how it is right now. So one config per environment. On the main thread, there is one config. For each worker, you can specify a different config. And on top of that, because we allow both Py and MPy for Pyodide and MicroPython, you can have actually realistically one PyConfig and one MPy config on the main page, and any number of config on the worker side, because they are all a new environment, new bootstrap, new everything. So that's kind of the constraint right now. if it makes sense and if I manage to explain with words
Awesome.
what I'm talking about.
I think that makes sense. I see Madura's thumbs up, which is very good. I think it's a good information and refresher and reminder for all of us about how configs work, because we've changed them, especially now, which is great. Fabio, I see you got your hand up too. What's your thought?
Yes. Well, let me first say hi, Ted.
Oh, Ted is here. Hello.
Really great to see you. So mine was going to be mostly like a suggestion for us. I think this is great, helps disambiguate and stuff. I think we should link to the docs in those error messages, linking to the config section and stuff like that, just for clarity.
Makes a lot of sense.
But obviously, this can be a follow-up PR, etc. I'll put a ticket for this in GitHub.
Yeah, that would be a cool opportunity for us or for some new contributors to get their hands on the code base and into the docs a little bit. Maybe we can tag that as a good first issue of turning some of those errors into links. Might be a fun thing to do. Great. That is the entirety of our agenda. Oh no, I see. I see. Oh, Fabio, go.
There is a last one. Did I put it? Hold on.
Oh, examples. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes. Fabio / Madura removing examples.
No worries.
I
I know it's personal, Jeff. I'm very offended.
I'm watching you.
Love it. I know Chicago in winter gets you grumpy, but not my fault. So yeah, this should be a simple one. Madura did a great job porting a lot of the examples. I think there are only a few remaining, mainly things that we cannot port, and a handful that I think just requires some discussion. The ones that we cannot port right now are the REPL ones, which will be in a couple of days. We could actually add them really quickly. And the other ones are the ones that are Python plugins based, like the list and to-do app, etc. We could add them back without plugins just to show how to do manual plugins, but I think we can live without them for now. And then the other ones are really just, there's the Mario example, hand trace example, like basically using external JavaScript libraries. I'm honestly neutral. We can add them, but overall, what I'm trying to say is I think we should just delete that folder now and have things in examples repo, and we can always look at the branch, the classic branch, to take the remaining examples. So anyone against it?
No, we should just also remove the tests.
Yes, I did in the PR, the same PR.
Yeah, because we don't use them anywhere now.
Yeah. After your comment this morning, I added a commit, so I removed the tests. So in that sense, the PR is ready. Cool.
Right. Makes a ton of sense. Fabio, because I haven't looked at this PR, if with those examples gone, if you go to the main PyScript like repo, is it still obvious? Like if you want to see examples, go to PyScript.com, or is there another place for people to see PyScript in action still?
That's a great question. No. So any suggestions? Maybe we can add an examples MD and say, hey, go look there. Or in the README, like I'm very open for suggestions.
That plus
sorry, Madhu, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. PyScript.net, right? It has examples pointing to the old classics, so we might want to replace all those links.
Yeah, that would be great. Point some of those on those linked to like the May release. It'd be good to point them at all the new examples for sure. Nicholas, you had a thought too, I think.
Yeah. So this, well, there are two things. So referencing the examples were always going to be part of when Fabio and I discussed the layout of the docs. There was always going to be an examples part of it. So that's actually on my to-do list tomorrow, is to just, now that we've got them there and blah 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 blah, put a examples page. there, and hopefully we've got our course headers sorted out so we can perhaps embed them in the page as well, just so that we can turn people's laptops into hairdryers. As they will try and launch PyScript in several different ways. Perhaps you shouldn't do that, actually. But also, this relates to the discussion that I've just referenced for Sarah on Discord about community engagement and what we link to and how we link to it, and the way how we. And if you look in the chat that we're having there, why isn't the Discord link on the Twitter account? Why isn't the Twitter account mentioned in blah blah blah? This is the thing that we're going to be figuring out tomorrow with Bogdan, who is a what is he? He's a PR marketing type person, but he's for some reason really enthusiastic about PyScript, which is really good. He's a PyScript learner, and so he wants to contribute and give us his expertise. So that's our second meeting with him is tomorrow. It's a kind of community. You're all welcome. If you're in the US, it's going to be a bit early for you because it's kind of like 10 a.m. I think, or 11 a.m. UK time. So, but I will certainly be feeding that back on Discord, and I know Bogdan will as well. There's a lot of energy around that. So the more people are involved in that, the better it'll become.
I'll try to join before going to bed.
After whiskeys or something, your nightcap. So I would love to see you in a meeting like that.
I don't guarantee anything, but also I wouldn't say for some reason, for all the good reasons he's interested.
Exactly.
Yeah, but honestly, that's one of the things that I've been really preaching for a long time. Like all open source projects would benefit from very diverse type of people, not only developers. Like this is exactly what I would love for all projects to have: people that love documentation or social and getting things out of there for others to find. So this is, yeah, love it.
Here's the fun thing. This time last week, at exactly this time, a certain Ted Patrick opened his mouth and started saying, do you know what? When I went to PyScript.net, I couldn't find a link to the Zoom meeting, and we really need to get this sorted out and blah, 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 blah. Well, this is the thing about being a community. We're having these conversations now, and we're starting to fix those things. So I just wanted to sort of say thanks as well to Ted, that there's a lot of trust in this room, that we can say these things and to speak to Parviz about, do I give feedback? The answer is emphatically yes, you do. It would be always.
One more thing, actually, now that you mentioned, I was on Saturday, I was in a San Diego Python meeting, and just I showed them a little bit of the app I had, which is really incomplete, And then someone asked me how to join the group, the PyScript. I said, oh, there is a PyScript on the Discord. But interesting enough, I even couldn't find it. When I searched the thing, then at the end anyway, I ended up going to GitHub. Over there, I saw the link and I told him, click on that, and then he was able to actually get in. Actually, I don't know even how I got in the first place here. Discord, but anyway.
So
we're glad you're here.
Yeah, this worked out very well. And what sounds like we need to, I think the common theme is, we wish we had a link to the Twitter on the Discord, and the Discord, and the docs, and the docs, and we should link to everywhere from everywhere and make it really easy to find.
The best thing, I think you have to start a base. I guess if you want to be GitHub, that's great. Just start from GitHub, then go everywhere. Because I noticed Matt Horner, he had these examples in the .com, which is nice in the PyScript.com, but maybe start that also from the GitHub, just one place, or PyScript.net, just one, and then go everywhere else.
Yeah, a man who has had his fingers in all of those places. Ted has his hand up. Ted, what's going on?
Yes, I think it's like there's two pieces of it. I mean, I certainly didn't notice it when I was within Anaconda, and when I'm on the team, where stuff is. You're actively working on it. It's the day to day. But as soon as I stepped outside, like I've actually had a really tough time finding this meeting. Because two factors, I brought it up in the last call, but the Zoom link changes, the URL changes every single time. So any of the legacy ones that we've posted, they don't work. And not only that, but finding the Discord, like because my Discord account was tied to my T Patrick and Anaconda, effectively I've lost access to that email account, and I've lost access to my Discord credentials. So like I got dropped outside hard. My GitHub still works on PyScript, PyScript open source, mind you, but not for anything PyScript.com, any of those internals. But it kind of struck me that it's kind of a, hey, what's the canonical place to find the information? How can we automate it so that no human being needs to do something on a regular basis to produce and keep those up to date? Like, is it an email list? Is it I don't know, just keeping people informed on a regular basis is hard. And I think the other aspect was that there seems to be kind of a handful of little broken windows, and they send the wrong message about the project. That there is a lot of good technology and solid foundation in PyScript today, but if I go to an example and it doesn't work on my machine, or I go to a thing, it basically says inadvertently that this project doesn't care about those details. It doesn't care about the simple working stuff. And I think it leads to people thinking that the project is in a state that it isn't. So I'm just going to keep hammering on those because they're easy. Whenever I find one, I'll bring it up, or I'll announce that I'll ask a dumb question in all caps, and you'll know what I'm talking about.
There you go.
Yeah.
Fabio, I see you got your hand up too.
Yeah, well, I'll reach out to you, Ted, for those things. We should just fix them. One thing that got me curious is, well, first, I thought you were getting grumpy because I wasn't feeding you, but I will next week. Let's have lunch. But,
Okay, more steak. It's okay.
Exactly.
Hey, everybody, we've just seen Fabio ask Ted out for a date. I mean, this is awesome.
We've been on a couple dates. This is cool.
Exactly. We are already in. So the thing that you mentioned around the link changing every time is weird and curious to me, because it should be just like a fixed link. And I made a change where at least the link to the doc that I'm been posting on Twitter is just a tiny URL PyScript call or something like this. That should be one. But if we have anything that is changing, that is a big whoa, and we should fix that right away.
Well, I mean, today I highlighted two items. One is that the Google Doc that was linked to and posted on Twitter is anonymous, allows everybody to edit it. So I was able to edit it outside of the org. But additionally, I couldn't find a time inside of the document. And even when I clicked on the time converter, it showed me that the time actually started at 9:30 a.m., not 10:30 a.m. Central Time. Like UTC versus GMT, like there's some time zone off there. But it's like really simple stuff that I think everyone who's on the team doesn't see. We get blinded to this common stuff, but now I'm able to see it and be like, wow, I didn't realize that was there.
That makes sense. Real quick, Nicholas, just because we said this earlier and you were not in the call, the editing of the doc was an intentional setting that I did, mostly because I didn't have a better option, right? Because when people join, how did they put items in the agenda? So what we said,
gotcha.
Right? What we said earlier, a lot of times I see people, open source projects using HackMD or something similar. I'm happy to do that if we all think it's best. But as you know, this Google Doc was like, oh, we need a doc. Let me just pull something out real quick.
Nicholas, I want to get to you. I want to wave hello to Antonio and welcome you here. And just we have 10 minutes left in this call, so we'll get a couple more thoughts and then we'll close out. So Nicholas, let's get yours for sure.
Okay, so I mean, this is great discussion. I think that I really appreciate seeing it from the outside perspective, because working on this from within Anaconda, I can see what Fabio's calendar is. We can all see, it's a recurring meeting in our calendars, so we've always got the right Zoom links and things like that. And this is something that we, as you know, Ted, I've always struggled with, in that there's an internal Slack, and sometimes we talk on there, and actually what we should be doing is talking on Discord and things. And I wonder, given that Discord actually has video call capabilities, and having observed this, having been a member of the Adafruit community and their Circuit Python stuff, they do it really well. It would be, perhaps we should, rather than using Anaconda infrastructure, this Zoom meeting is being run by, on Anaconda's Zoom infrastructure. We just use Discord for what it's supposed to be used for. That's the kind of the landing zone. Where do I go? It's announced that also EuroPython did this really well. There'd be breakout rooms for video calls where the different working groups were working on particular things, and these can be scheduled so that Discord automates the hell out of it and tells you in 3 hours there's going to be a call, sort of thing. So if you're on that Discord server, you're there. Parviz, if you can't find the Discord thing, that's a real problem. I'm surprised about that, but we should certainly look into it as well. And I'm sorry you encountered that problem.
That's okay. That's okay. But what actually you mentioned about putting on Discord, I think is a good idea, because the people, at least they're member of the PyScript, they can see you, someone is there. I mean, the whole thing is this: start from one place. I mean, for example, okay, you have Twitter, you have Discord, you have. Today I saw that there's some forum on the Anaconda by accident. Probably somehow all these things has to be merged, which is anyway, then it means that the people can go to one place, find it, and at the same time, your job becomes easier. Because I can see what is happening. I mean, it's not easy to maintain all these social groups and so on. So I guess try just to make it simple.
Yeah,
I think we've got some holes to plug, and then we can see if we can gather all of our different boats back into one big flotilla and organize them as a whole. I think those two things can happen side by side, right? We can add the links that are missing, automate the things that are manual, and then make a big old strategy about it.
Exactly.
Folks, I know we're just about at the end of our time. Are there any last minute thoughts or announcements, especially from those of us who joined a little bit later? Anything else you want to throw into today's community call? No is fine too. I think, am I right in thinking that we have our PyScript Fun call? Is that this week already? We come around full circle. I thought I would just mention here, just because it's another thing that like people on this call might not have heard of. On Thursdays, a half hour later in time than this call, whatever that means in your local time zone, there is another call that is focused on, it's called PyScript Fun. It's focused on demos and experiments and things that are not necessarily related to PyScript core or infrastructure, and just people showing off fun things. Sometimes those features do make it into PyScript core. We've had that happen a bunch. But it's also just like a time to show off and say, I made this thing, and don't you think it's neat? I think it's neat. So that is this Thursday, the 7th, a half hour later than this call started. We can do the math on that. It's 11 a.m. Chicago time is all I know. I thought that'd be worth promoting.
I have one more question. Where I know you're recording this meeting. Where do you put those?
Good question.
Oh man, okay. Do you know what? I
Fabio
been in
mailbox
this meeting last week and it didn't come to me because Fabio.
Well, yes, I was off last week, but not the weeks before. I'm the bottleneck on this one, to be honest. I haven't been doing a great job. But in theory, it goes to our YouTube channel that also we need to put links to, etc. So I'm actually, while we're just doing this, I was adding a new discussion on GitHub to list all those things that we need to do and just start ticking off the list. Yeah.
Okay, no, I guess they're great. And just you put somewhere so that the people can know more about the PyScript. And by the way, I want to thank Jeff that about the couple of weeks you had the things about the PyScript next. It was great.
Oh, I'm so glad.
we need more of these type of things, and also probably some of your examples are great, but at the same time, you need, I guess, more of a recipes. I believe you have it in the recipes, PyScript.recipes. Just simple stuffs. Just
For
simple
sure.
stuff how to do. I mean, that will be really great.
I'm so glad. Yeah. And all of it is open source. So if anyone's like, I wish I had a recipe on this, or you want to submit, feel free to put in a PR. I think this is the next opportunity for, I think we'll close you out with my personal thought. We have a lot of like little holes to plug, and that's all easy, sweep the floor work, which we can absolutely do. I think the next step that'll be really exciting is to gather back together and say, okay, everything links to everything else. How do we want to centralize and promote and allow it to be a space that our community can continue to contribute to in a easy way? So when somebody says, hey, there's a hole in your documentation, they feel free to input it there or make a recipe or make an example. That's a whole other level, and we'll surely get there. But I'm excited for that. Ted, you want to leave us with a parting thought?
Yeah, I mean, it's the holidays, and one of the things that I am not doing this year that I did last year was Advent of Code. And Advent of Code allows you to do puzzles every day from the 1st to the 25th. It's great. I know Jeff is doing this actively, and I did it actively last year. And one of the things that became super obvious that I didn't see was that we sort of hit the limits of PyScript about halfway through the Advent of Code. You could not actually process as much as they needed to complete the exercises in PyScript. And so essentially I had to flip back to, desktop Python to finish some of those. And obviously it's one of those exercises in, it starts easy, but it does escalate pretty quickly over the course of the next couple of weeks. But it really highlights where the framework is strong, and it highlighted the desperate need for us to have workers. Obviously, we knew it, in December of last year, and began working on that shortly after the Lisbon offsite. But really, going through the exercise, I would encourage everyone to just try it, to try to go through Advent of Code and basically try to chip away and see how far you can get with PyScript, because any of the use cases where it falls down are relevant for end users and project use and the like. So it's a really good litmus test on are we solid like in certain areas. But again,
yeah, always a good excuse to dog food our own product and see how it does. I like it a lot. Yeah. Well, very good. Nicholas, one more thing.
On that, I've actually been using PyScript.com to work on the audio work that I was doing, which has been interesting as well, being able to give feedback to Martin and the team there.
That's awesome. Oh, such good stuff. Well, thanks everybody. We're at 2 minutes of time, so I think we'll probably put a button on it here if that's all right. Happy Tuesday. Hope everyone's staying warm or cool, depending on where you are geographically. It's lovely to see you all, and hope to see many of you on the Thursday call and at community calls in future weeks.
Same. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Everybody.
Bye.
Bye.